Chapter 18 of Short Stories for Short People. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by James K. White. Short Stories for Short People by Alicia Stuart Aspinwall. Chapter 18. The Toad Boy. There was once a toad who lived near a big flat stone in the forest. As he sat by his hole one day, a boy passed. The toad looked at him and said, "Oh, how I wish I were a boy." "Then why don't you be one?" said a snake who was near. "I don't know how." "If you really want to become a boy, I will tell you how to do it." And the snake winked his wicked eyes at the toad. "All you have to do is to hop 10 times round that flat stone, and then, without waiting a moment, hop quickly on the stone itself. Then you will become a boy." "Thank you, kind snake," said the toad. And he at once began, hoppity, hoppity, hop, round and round the stone. When he had been round 10 times, and was just ready for the final jump, the wicked snake, who had been watching, suddenly seized him by the leg and held him fast. The poor toad cried with pain and disappointment. But the next day he came again, having made up his mind to try once more. So he began, hoppity, hoppity, hop, till he had been round 10 times. It took longer this time, as his poor little leg was lame. Just as he was about to make the final jump on the stone, out sprang the snake again and seized him by the other leg. "You are very unkind," said the poor toad. But the snake only laughed and wriggled away. The toad sat there crying bitterly. "What is the matter?" said a friend who lived near, and he listened sympathetically to the story. "Make one more trial," he advised, "and I will help you." So, on the following morning, the toad, coming to the flat stone, began for the 3rd time his journey. But he was obliged to go very, very slowly, hoppity, hoppity, hop, for his poor little legs pained him dreadfully. At last he was ready for his final jump, when, as before, out popped the snake. But this time out popped somebody else at the same time. 'Twas the friendly toad. And what do you think he did? He gave one tremendous jump and came down directly on the snake's head. And as he was very fat and heavy, the snake was unable to move. Our toad, meanwhile, had succeeded in reaching the stone, and at once began to feel very strangely. First his toad skin began to crack, crack, and finally fell from him altogether. Then he grew taller and taller, and then, before you could count 5, a boy stood where a toad had been before. He stepped from the stone and tried to walk, which at first was a very difficult matter, as his legs were weak, but as he went on they became stronger. He walked on and on through the woods, picking with his new little hands the beautiful flowers which he had never even noticed before when he was a toad, but which he now thought very lovely. Soon he began to feel hungry, for he did not seem to care to eat the fat flies which were flying lazily about, and which, when he was a toad, used to seem so delicious to him. And not only did he long for something to eat, but he was tired as well. Ah, so tired. The night, too, was coming on, and he wanted a soft bed. And more than all, his poor little heart began to ache for a kind, loving mamma. He had now reached a high road, and made up his mind that he would walk down it in search of the things he needed. He soon came to a house, and walking timidly to the door, asked the lady there if she would like to have a little boy. She said, "No, I have already one little boy." Then, as the light fell full on his face, the lady screamed and said, "Oh, what is the matter with you? Go away." And he walked to the next house. There, too, he asked the lady if she did not want a little boy. "No," said she, "I have already 2 little boys of my own." Then, as he turned to leave, she too saw his face, screamed, and shut the door quickly. To the third house he went, and there the lady had 3 boys, but she gave him some bread and butter and spoke kindly to him. At this house the lamps were not yet lighted, so that she could not see his face. He walked away eating his bread and butter, but with a very heavy heart. Sitting down by the roadside, he cried bitterly. "No one wants me," he sobbed. "I have no dear, kind mamma to love and pet me, and I am afraid I shall have to become a toad again." Just then he heard the sound of an approaching carriage, and looking up, saw its lamps shining like 2 great eyes in the darkness. In the carriage sat a lady, who, hearing the child's cries, stopped and said, "What is the matter, little boy? Why don't you go home to your mamma?" "I have no home, and I have no mamma," he said sadly. "Oh, dear lady, don't you want a little boy, and won't you be my mamma?" "Yes," said the lady, "I will take you gladly, for I have no boy of my own. Come here, dear." The poor little fellow walked to the side of the carriage, his beautiful golden curls shining in the light of the lamps. But alas, the light showed something else, for he was near enough for the lady to see him distinctly. She too, like the others, shrank away. "Poor, poor child," she said. "What is the matter with me? Lady, why do you look so sadly at me?" said the boy, his lip quivering. "Look," said she, giving him a small mirror which hung at the side of the carriage. In this he looked, and saw a boy's head with beautiful golden curls, but the face was the horrid green face of a toad. He screamed in his fright, and then he told his story to the lady, who was very much interested. "I advise you," said she, "to go back and find that snake, and make him tell you how to get rid of the toad face, and how to get a boy face. If you are successful, come to my house," and she pointed to a big house near, "and be my own dear boy." He thanked her very much, and back he went to the woods. The night was hot, and he slept comfortably under a big tree on a soft pile of leaves. In the early morning he began his search for the snake, but although he spent hours in looking for him, he could not find him, and when night came he was much discouraged. "The snake is gone. No one wants me, and it will be much better for me to become a toad again," said he. So the poor little fellow found the flat stone, and, counting carefully, walked round it backward, the tears streaming from his eyes. After he had gone round 10 times, and was about to take the final jump on the stone, out popped that same horrid snake, and tried to catch him by the heel, when the boy, who, although he had the face of a toad, had the brains and hands of a boy, quickly seized the creature, and, holding him so that he could not possibly bite, began to squeeze him. "Now, you bad fellow," said he, "I shall squeeze you till you tell me what I want to know." The snake, who was much frightened, said, "I will." "Then," said the boy, "when I was a toad, you told me how to become a boy. But what kind, you bad, bad snake? A boy with the horrid green spotted face of a toad. Now you must tell me how to change this." "Go then," gasped the snake, "to the milkweed. Break a piece, rub the white juice over your face, and you will at once have the face of a real boy." So, running quickly to the weed, first putting down the snake and telling him to crawl off, which he did, hissing angrily as he went, the boy broke off a piece of the milkweed and rubbed it well into his green face. Running now to a pond near, he looked down and saw reflected in it the face of a dear little boy, and oh, how happy the sight made him! Then, fast as his legs could carry him, he ran to the lady's house. She was delighted to see him, and kissed him on his new little face, saying, "You are now to be my own son, dear, and I shall expect you to be a very good boy." "I will try hard, mamma," said he, "and I don't think I shall fail, for I know I was a very good toad." End of chapter 18. Recording by James K. White, Chula Vista.